Hello everybody, welcome to Grassroots Vegan. I'm David Kelly. In my last video I talked about is emotional eating a myth, and it was sort of a response to Durian Ryder's video that he did on emotional eating is a myth, and I took the opposite position saying no, it's not a myth, there is such a thing as emotional eating. And in that video, I brought up one type of emotional eating, and that was where people will overeat to insulate their emotions from perhaps a traumatic experience that they had in the past. And I kind of just glossed over that. I didn't go into any depth. So in this video, I would just like to get into a little bit more depth on that topic because I feel it's important. I think, you know, being a part of this lifestyle, the low-fat vegan, low-fat raw vegan, raw till 4, all of that, 80-10-10, high-carb, low-fat, you know, the whole list, right? We tend to think that if you just eat the way we eat, all your problems can be solved. And I think it's a nice idea, and believe me, since I've been practicing a low-fat vegan diet and eating predominantly fruits and vegetables, I've experienced enormous benefits in my life, and it has contributed, I should say, to having an optimistic view and an overall sense of well-being, a feeling of joy that it just comes with. It's a part of the benefit of just getting healthier and feeling lighter. But now, is it right to tell somebody who may have problems with emotional eating because they've had a traumatic experience in the past to just say, you know, carve the fuck up and get a life? Is that fair to say that to somebody who's really struggling with emotional eating? And that is, you've had a traumatic experience in the past, and the way you have dealt with it, a lot of people deal with it through drug addiction, through alcoholism, through workaholism. It's usually when you don't actually face the pain of that trauma and come to terms with it, you will find yourself throughout life doing things almost to the extreme. I would say it's a compulsive behavioral pattern, an excessive compulsive behavioral pattern. And it affects your relationships, it affects how you work, it affects every aspect of your life. And you may have decided, you know, you're just going to tough it up and put it behind you, bury it, and just get through life. You know, you don't want to be a victim. You don't want to focus on that. Understandable, because you have to get ahead. You have to move forward in life, and you don't want to be stuck in that pain. But that doesn't make it disappear. And becoming a low-fat vegan, a high-carb whatever, raw foodist, blah, 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 doing that could be actually just another way of running from the pain. You could be using low-fat veganism to be running from the pain, and you get extremely involved in the diet and you become fanatical about it. That's just another escape for you, another form of escaping. I can give you an example. You know, somebody who, let's say a young woman who, when she was a girl, got raped. And maybe it was by a family member. She never told anybody because she was afraid. And as a teenager, she had very low self-esteem, had problems with relationships. And maybe, you know, she dealt with the pain by overeating, and now she's got a weight problem, and she has a serious problem with overeating because that's how she insulates the pain from that trauma. And yet, this young woman could be doing well in a career. She could be very smart, got great grades in school, all of that. But yet she has this compulsive behavior because it's the way she deals with her pain, because she's never really confronted the trauma and come to terms with it. What do you tell that person? Oh, just carve the F up and get a life. And, everything will work itself out. Just eat a low-fat vegan diet and it's all going to be okay. It's not going to be okay. You can try that, and you may build a tough exterior and get through life just fine, and you may think you're okay, but when you least expect it, that trauma will rear its ugly head. Believe me, I know personally, because I, as a child, at 8 years old, had a traumatic experience. And I tried to bury it, I tried to deny it, and it affected my relationships with others. It affected my social life. Not that you would notice it. You wouldn't so much, nobody would know what was going on inside. And I was so good at burying it myself that I didn't even know that that's what was really at issue here. But it was there, and I had this obsessive behavior. I would do things to the extreme. For example, I became a born-again Christian when I was about 18 years old, 17 years old. And I went to the extreme on that. I was fanatical to the point where people were hating me. And that was really just, again, that trauma. And I'm talking about a severe trauma here that I never had come to terms with. Now, later on, I learned to balance myself out a little bit better, but I still had behavioral patterns that was definitely linked to that pain, to that trauma, and that would create problems in my life. I've been through 2 marriages. I have trouble getting close to people and developing good friendships. And I'm still learning this, but even becoming a vegan, a low-fat vegan, and eating predominantly raw food, although it's taken me a long way, it has not dealt with that trauma. And a couple of months ago, I decided to see a therapist. And that's what you need to do. If you've had severe trauma in your life, don't try to run from it. Don't try to toughen it up. Yeah, sure, eat a low-fat vegan diet. It's good for you and everything like that, but it's not going to deal with the trauma. You need to talk to somebody, preferably a professional that knows how to deal with the trauma or is experienced with people that have had traumatic, have had a traumatic past. So why did I suddenly, a couple of months ago, decide to see a therapist? Well, probably what really brought it home for me, last year my mother passed away, and 6 months prior to that I spent a lot of time with her. She was suffering from dementia, and although her short memory was seriously impaired, her long-term memory, especially childhood memories, were intact. And a lot of her memories were about pain that she experienced as a child, about abuse that she experienced as a child, about neglect that she experienced as a child. And I was thinking to myself, I don't want to be at the end of my life and only remember the painful things that happened to me. I don't want that. And that's why I decided to get help, finally. Not because I felt pretty strong within myself. I felt pretty balanced and that I had it together to a certain degree. But I knew that if I'm going to go forward in life and make a real positive difference in other people's lives and truly live a healthy, well-balanced, well-rounded life, I needed to deal with that trauma. And so that's when I decided to see a therapist. And believe me, the only thing I regret about seeing a therapist is that I didn't do it years ago. It would have saved me so much trouble. So now I go once a week, and it's not like you can go just to one session and everything's going to be okay. It depends on the depth of the trauma, and there's also other things in my life that I'm working out with my therapist. She's the kind of therapist I have. She's a Gestalt therapist, and she also does life coaching as well. So we've kind of blended the two together, which is really nice for me. It works well. If you have had a severe traumatic experience and you know it has been affecting your behavioral patterns in a negative way, you should consider talking to somebody. And if you're going to see a therapist, shop around. Like, get one that is a good fit for you, because there's a lot of different styles of therapy out there. And that's what I would recommend. You know, the low-fat vegan diet, the fruitarian diet, it's great. I'm a firm believer in it, and I know it works. But there's just certain things that goes beyond this diet where you need to get help elsewhere. That's all I got to say about that topic. So, and I just thought it was important to bring up, because it kind of leaves people, when you say, you know, when all the emphasis is on this lifestyle and this way of eating, and people see us and that are promoting this and thinking, you know, they've all got it together and everything. No, we don't necessarily all have it together. In fact, a lot of us come to this lifestyle because we've had pain in the past. And it is extremely helpful. But sometimes you need to go beyond, you know, we're talking about food here. Food nourishes the body. It's not some kind of magical, I mean, bananas are not magical. They're not miracle performers, and fruits are what they are. They're highly nutritious foods that are provided by nature. But as humans, we are far more complex than the other creatures of nature. And because of that, we need to sometimes get help on a different level. So that's what I suggest in regards to trauma. Have a great day, and continue to eat lots of fruits and vegetables, because it really does work. Take care.